What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel, and if you guys are new, welcome. Do I have a Solar Hunter build for y'all? I know y'all have probably seen a lot of the Celestial Nighthawk with Golden Gun going around, but this right here utilizes the newly reworked and buffed Shards of Galanor, which one restores a good amount of our Blade Barrage, while now our throwing knife defeats allow us to get super energy back, so we are just spamming our super on those bosses. We did just over 7 million damage on the final boss of the dungeon, basically using shards every single round for DPS. We get it back so fast with this build because of those throwing knives. So, starting us out with that Shards of Galanor and our mods. The Sharp Edges Throwing Knife Final Blows decreases the cooldown of your super. Hits and final blows with Blade Barrage will return super energy after our super ends. Now for the mods that we have on this, we're going to be using Heavy Handed so we can get Orbs of Power on all those melee defeats with Harmonic Loader, so we're going to be using some nice solid DPS weapons with this as well that are solar, plus impact induction so we can get our grenade back as well by getting all of those throwing knife defeats. Now on top of that, we're going to be using hands-on double on our helmet. You could trade this out for something like heavy ammo finder if you would like, but we also have harmonic siphon because we're using a solar hand cannon, so we're going to be creating even more orbs of power via that. Now on our chest piece, we're using arc resistance and void resistance with the harmonic reserves, so we can really juice out that damage because of our linear fusion heavy. Plus we're protecting ourselves from damage. You can change these out like always depending on what type of content you are going into and the enemies that you face. Now importantly, for the DPS side of this build, we're gonna have that double solar weapon surge on our boots with double time dilation on our class item, which will improve the duration of this effect. So we're going to be able to put out that 12.5 extra % damage on combatants when we have the armor charge, and with all of the orbs of power that we are creating via heavy handed as well as the solar siphon, plus with our teammates we have that up very consistently, and then time dilation lets us keep it up almost forever, it feels like. Now, moving on to weapons, you can go a couple different choices, totally up to you, but this is 100% what I was rocking. We have the Wither Horde with Zawuli's Bane, that solar hand cannon, as well as Cataclysmic with 4 times the charm and bait and switch, and that boss spec we can just absolutely nuke some of these bosses, plus we're throwing Shards of Galanor and Blade Barrage consistently with this build. You can throw on something like Apex Predator in this slot, even something like the Ashira's Embrace Dejection, right here, and then something like a normal hand cannon, Fatebringer if you want, using Galahorn, totally up to you, but this right here is my max DPS for this build for sure with Shards, since we're sending it out every single DPS phase. Now, moving on to the artifact for this that makes it even better. First off, we have Flint Striker. Rapid Solar Weapon Precision Hits and Rapid Solar Weapon Final Blows grants us Radiant. We're also going to get Radiant from Ember of Torches, but this helps as well, especially if we do happen to run out of our throwing knife. We're going to be using Kindling Trigger. Radiant causes solar weapons to apply Scorch to unscorched combatants, just helping us with that add clear potential of the build as well. Now, importantly, right here, Heart of the Flame, which makes our super even juicier. Casting our solar super grants nearby allies Radiant and increases the damage of our super for each nearby ally. So like we saw in the very beginning gameplay and right here a little bit, when we are in the Well of Radiance, we have the Guardians near us, so we're throwing our super and getting even more damage because of that. So that's why in raids, when you have 5 Guardians next to you, you're doing even more damage with with that golden gun and blade barrage. So in this dungeon, we are just juicing the boss every single DPS phase with our blades. Now back to the artifact, we also have Revitalizing Blast with Rays of Precision. So while Radiant Solar Weapon final precision blows cause damages to ignite, and then Revitalizing Blast causing damage with solar abilities weakens champions and bosses. So that's why we can throw our grenade and our knife at the boss as well, and it'll give us a nice little weakening effect so we can do even more damage on those bosses and champions. Like I said, we are just at the DPS max with this and the Solar Hunter build. Now bringing us full circle, we are going with our Blade Barrage, of course, to pair with Shards of Galanor. Now, right here, I went with Gambler's Dodge to make sure that we always get our knife trick back. You can also go with whatever throwing knife you would like, but I personally like knife trick the most. You could go with Acrobatic Dodge if you would like to help make yourself radiant as well as your allies for that extra DPS, but we're getting it with Ember of Torches as well, which you will see in a second. For our grenade, we have our solar grenade, but you could go with really anything that you feel. Fusion and Firebolt have a very low cooldown time, so that'll help you throw it a little bit more often. Now for our aspects, we're going to have Knock 'em Down, Gunpowder Gambler. Knock 'em Down, Solar Supers are enhanced, so our Blade Barrage launches more projectiles while Radiant. Final Blows with Equipped Throwing Knife fully refunds our melee energy. That's why you can change your class ability. Totally up to you. Now for Gunpowder Gamble, defeating targets with solar abilities, solar debuffs, or solar weapons charges up that nice explosion that we can throw at enemies. Nice little DPS, and it counts towards a solar ability as itself. Now, moving on for our fragments, right here, Ember of Torches, which is how we're becoming radiant consistently with our knife trick. Top of that, Ember of Searing, defeating those scorched targets grants us melee energy and creates fire sprites. We're using those fire sprites to get back our grenade, plus we're getting a nice chunk of our melee energy back every time we defeat those scorched enemies, because we will not have enemies all the time to continuously throw our knife, so using that scorch from our weapons helps a lot, and our other abilities to get back our melee even when we can't dodge, or get it back via our Gunpowder Gamble or Knock 'em Down. Now we're going to have Ember of Beams, so our Solar Super has stronger target acquisition, just making our Blade Barrage a little bit better. And last but not least, Ember of Benevolence, applying that Restoration Cure or Radiant to allies grants increased grenade, melee, and class ability regen for a short period of time. So this will help us to get back our abilities even faster, since we're going to be sending out that Radiant consistently with torches and our knife trick, allowing us to get our super back as well because of the Shards of Galanor, which you see we are just juicing the damage on this boss. Every single time we did DPS, I had my super. Yes, we had a couple wells to help with that damage aspect, being able to stay alive and not have to run around in this encounter while doing damage, but that bait and switch on the Cataclysmic with Witherhoard on top of it allowed us to do that crazy 7 mil damage on this boss, while our other two Guardians did just over 3 million. So this build is pretty crazy for that endgame DPS. You can stay alive with it as well. Just switch out a couple of your different fragments. In my personal opinion, you could change out beams for Ember of Mercy. That would be a good switch, so you could pick up those fire sprites that you're creating, give yourself restoration. So this build very good for the ad clear potential, as well as some crazy DPS with Blade Barrage and Shards of Galanor. We are going to make a Celestial Nighthawk build as well with that Goldie Gun, just to do a little comparison, so y'all can go with whatever your heart desires and really play that Solar Hunter to its max potential. So thank y'all again for that support. Y'all have been crazy with the builds here. We got a lot more coming out. Make sure to hit up One Eye Jedi on all of those socials, as well as join the Discord. Everything's down in the description below. So again, truly appreciate all y'all. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.